the business attitude. They don't know about the total macro picture. They look about what they face at a micro level. They respond to the market forces, to the price mechanism, to the incentive system. The goal of the business is to get profit. And therefore, what opportunities available in the market, they will make use of it. What are the facts? I have distributed to you a report on the pesticides. What does it prove? That the market economy, the profit opportunity has produced, that the total use of insecticides and pesticides in Indonesia is steeply going up in the last 4 years, while the production of rice is almost flat. So the pesticides, insecticides use far exceeds its contribution to growth of rice production. And yet, it goes on. The import of pesticides is tremendously high, huge. The profits are so high that you have a market channel, market mechanism, and market system promotion in which those farmers that make use of pesticides as much as possible are given a bonus to go Hajj, to make Haji, menjadi Haji in Makkah. So the incentive system is very huge, but nature is being destroyed. And what is the consequence? Today in Klaten, Boyolali, Sukoharjo, the rice fields are empty because it's attacked by the mice. So you have 100,000 of mice in the field. Even ular sawah, snakes, cannot cope with the tremendous attack of these mice because the whole rice field is destroyed due to the use of this insecticide. How? So I'd like to open it for discussion. Thank you.
Share with us, because our topic here is learning by sharing. Learning by sharing. Please, and give an applause to Dr. Gabriela.
Terima kasih. Selamat pagi. I'm very happy to talk and very honored to talk just with such important people. And in fact, very happy because our goal here is very, very close. I'm Gabriela. I'm originally from Brazil. Now, I'm living in the United States since October, but coming from a mega biodiversity country like Indonesia, I'm feeling like at home here. And all the challenge that has been posted and discussed since I'm here are very, very similar to a lot of discussions that we have in Brazil. Then for me, it's really very, very interesting to be here and share with you and hear from you and think together, because I believe the solution for the planet now to face all the challenges that have been posed here are more in the south hemisphere than in the north hemisphere. And it will be more now to Indonesia, to countries like Indonesia, Brazil and others, to think a new paradigm, growing to a green economy. Then this is a little bit what I will be sharing here. Someone will help me.
2 million tons and then 2 million tons. Because of why the production in the country is insufficient. So we are dreaming. We are happy if the corn production could be supported from the country. And what we import from the other country, almost all are from the country where they implement or develop the transgenic or biotechnologies corn from Brazil, for instance, and other countries. And what's the impact about, to the poultry? Almost very few, or there's no impact or no bad impact. Even though the people who eat the chicken still healthy, even me, still healthy. And this is why we would like to support if the implementation of the biotechnology in the feed crops source, corn and the other source could be a product in Indonesia. So we do hope, because the regulation is still not yet exit, but Dr. Agus is the chairman for the commission for it, and 2 commissioners already assessed and give the assessment is from the agricultural side and from the human side is okay now, depend to the assessment for the environmental side. So for us, the poultry industry,
maybe whatever would like to share with us in positive thing, please raise the hand and mention the name, your name, please. Well, we have 3 for the first session. I would like to follow the row of the table.
yeah.
From you first,
Yeah,
and then, please.
Thank you. But my name is Budi from ibcsd. Please consider that I am not expert in agriculture here. I am only the customer. Confident are you in sustainable world we'll be creating someday? Because as we know today, sustainable is not one of the first agenda in the world. We have so many agenda. We have fighting Israel and Palestine, Korea and South and North fighting each other. We have so many issues. And I see that climate change even is not the first agenda in the world. So how do you see and how confident are you to see the sustainable world we'll be creating? Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's better to answer directly or connect. Okay. If you have some connection, please, the second row, you share.
Thank you very much, all of the panel, for your very interesting contributions and presentations. My name is Murray McLeish from PricewaterhouseCoopers Change, Assistant Consulting and Climate. You all talked, and we all talk in these forums about more people in the world and producing more. But I'm interested in your thoughts on the other side of the equation, which is less. That means reproducing less. It means consuming less. And as Professor Sudarsono mentioned, wasting less. These are all very important parts of balancing this equation. So I'm interested in your thoughts on how we can do that.
At least according to ISR criteria, yeah, we have to develop, to plan here, not to consume, yeah, to plan more than 100,000 hectares, the minimum. Yeah, so we will, our country will include it in the report of ISR. Yeah. Well, that's our challenge, and we have to prove all safe. That's the bigger challenge. Yeah, yeah. Please, Pak Emil first, I think.
In 1946, Mahatma Gandhi mentioned that the world should strive to prefer less rather than more, because at that time the philosophy was to prefer more rather than less. And this attitude, according to Mahatma Gandhi, will destroy nations. So he was aiming at and trying to develop in India to prefer less rather than more. That was 1946. 40 years later, that idea becomes how to have sufficient in accordance to nature. So not more, not less, but an equilibrium between the biocapacity, the ability of nature, and the demand side. 1986, Our Common Future, the book, produces the idea of sustainable development. correcting the way development that was implemented during that time to put more emphasis on economic development only. Man does not live by bread alone. So it must be economic, social, and environmental development. That was 1986. Now, 30 years later, the idea of economic sustainable growth, the last meeting was in Rio 2012, in which then the sustainable growth idea was revisited by all the top leaders, Obama and so on and so forth. And the hall were the members, the delegates. On the upper floor were the head of the delegates, the presidents, Obama, SPY, and so on. They were all discussing, but the conclusion was no conclusion. A lot of talk, a lot of slogans, but nothing. So what is the key? The key issue is not whether economic growth can continue or whatever, but the key is politics. In the room of Clinton, in his room, Oval Room, there is a phrase, it's not economic, stupid, and I like to add on that it's not economic stupid, but it's the politic stupid. So it is not an economic issue, it is not an environmental issue, it's a political issue. When Obama faced election, he doesn't want to support the climate change convention, and therefore he withdraw. And when US withdraw, automatically China will also join the climate change convention. And then if China don't want, Europe will not, Canada will not, Russia will not, and the whole world will not. So the leadership of the global politics is not in favor of sustainable development. Why? Because the politics is between the Wall Street stream and the Main Street stream. There's the Wall Street, those, the capitalists and so on, versus the main stream. These are the two streams which is manifested in the Arab Spring, a big clash, and the main stream won, and we have now this kind of revolution in the Middle East. I project that the politics hesitate to adjust with the reality of life, in which, as mentioned, people grow, food is becoming more a critical political issue, not an economic issue anymore. When that goes on, the Main Street people, the young, will revolt. And that will push the change into the politics. In Indonesia, how do you explain Jokowi coming up? It's a Main Street stream, not the Wall Street stream. So this is the trend, maybe not in 2014, but certainly in 2019, not only in Indonesia, but the world at large. Because the old generation leaders, the leaders that has grown into kind of an established to prefer more rather than less, will come up to the reality that the world is facing food shortage, water shortage, climate change. These are issues that the politics cannot handle by themselves. That will create a reaction, a chain reaction, in which then suddenly more people are aware that the economy must change into sustainable development. So up to now, I don't think that it will happen today. But wait for the next young generation coming up. We will have a spring revolution like the Middle East coming throughout the world, including in the US, Europe, and so on. Then sustainable development to prefer sufficiency in a cultural resource will be a reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prof, to explain why Main Street stream. Well, according to astrology, this is right. Well, I'm joking. Well, please, Bu Gabriela and then Pak Don.
Okay. Yes, we talked everything. It's a hard challenge to talk after me. I would only add, but in the same direction, because I totally agree. Now, thinking a little bit about the last point and everything that was mentioned, in fact, I agree that now is more than ever the time for us to take action. And talking about less and now this idea, with the World Business Council for Sustainable Development, we are discussing, companies are discussing the must-haves and the less is included inside, and less, and how about waste, etc. Then this is something that's going on now, and we hope to be in Turkey in November, ready to answer this point and to address this. And the second point is the Sustainable Development Goals, that is also under discussion now, this week, and under consultation, right? The Sustainable Development Goals, for me, the post-2015, is a very important step for this kind of new paradigm. We faced the Millennium Goals that United Nations placed, and politically speaking, we didn't reach what was decided before. Then, in fact, now it's the time to reevaluate, and the companies need to stand up, and all the stakeholders need to stand up together and see, okay, what we'll be doing, what can we do in order to be inside planetary boundaries. We have a big challenge, and in fact, less is part of the challenge, but it's not the only one. We have people that are still outside of this equation. Then we need to have less consumption in parts of the world, but in other parts we need to include people. Then this is a big challenge, we need everybody, and I know PwC is part of this discussion with the World Business Council about the must-haves. This is something that needs to be, in fact, reached. Yes, I believe I teach everything. About the point, the technical point, I have one expert person here that I would like also to hear from him, that's Harvey, Dr. Harvey. After everyone talked, we could hear from him because he has a lot of experience about this guy. Thank you.
Okay. Actually, I have to underline what Professor Emil have explained, that the economic environment and social will be equal. That's a good thing. Even though at the moment we are on the way to that direction, but for food supply, we need support with the we start with the pure origin breed, whatever in the crops and also in the animal side. Indonesia have a very lot of animal genetic and also plant genetics resources. So we have to maintain this and conserve it because in the next future we can use this pure conservation species for to develop the use, but the conservation have to be done since now. Before we taking action with the biotechnology, whatever, in the plant side or animal side, conservation, and then we have the breeding, we can select, make the selection, the crossing, and also the implementation of the biotechnology. But yeah, this is our the demand will be increased and increased for the food, and we have to make this equal bit by bit. Thank you.
A solution.
Yes. Maybe I just want to make some comment on two things. I'm quite interested with the statement of, is it possible that we can actually not aim at more, but aim at less? Well, it is a very interesting question, because if we can make less, then okay. But the reality is not everything can be directed to less. For example, the human population, we are trying to get it less, but now we are reaching at more than 7 billion. This is a fact. When we are talking about 7 billion or maybe 9 billion in the near future, there is no other consequences except we have to feed them. And unless we have a alternative view about food, because traditionally, especially for Indonesian, food means one plate of rice, which is about 150 grams, and you multiply that by a number of persons, and multiply that by 3 times, because we eat rice morning, afternoon, and night. And the answer will be more, not less. So unless we develop alternative, maybe we can eat new type of rice, which is only 10 grams, equal to 150 gram of rice right now. Then we are talking about less. In the meantime, we have to keep thinking about, well, less or more, depending on the opportunity that we are developing. And of course, those are things that we should start thinking right now. Don't wait until 2030 or something. The second one I would like to comment is about the past question. As an academic, I always look at something not just in one direction, because one of the debate about the biotechnology application in Indonesia is always, in one side, the people look at one direction, and then on the other side, the other people look at the other direction. If we position the two sides one to another, and then it will crash, because any side will hold their opinion and don't want to see any other way. So there is no solution. My point is, we should not use kind of a question like that to eliminate the opportunity of evaluating the technology. So what I'm saying is, there's a question. If we use, this will eat other thing. So don't use the technology. In my opinion, that should not be the way of thinking. What we should do is, okay, if we deploy insect-resistant crop, there is a possibility that the insect will eat other crop. And then the question should be how we prevent that. Not so we don't have to use that technology. That is not the answer, because we need to find alternative technology. It is important for us to have as many technology as possible to answer if, in case the answer should be more, as I mentioned before. If the answer is more, then we don't have the technology and we are in trouble. So eliminating possibility just because we are afraid that something negative will happen, then we are missing the opportunity. Now, back to the past question. So when we see something like that, what we should think is resistance management. How we manage things so that the insects are going down under the minimal level, not eliminating the insect, but we should think that, okay, insect can live in the field, but please don't make destruction more than the economic level. That is the way we should think, at least from the academic point of view. Not, well, don't use the technology because it will create a possibility new pests will actually attack the other crop. So resistance management should be the way we think to answer that. That way we can have an opportunity to evaluate the technology for probably making more food, but we also anticipate the potential problem by looking at possible way to prevent this from happening. I think that's only to thank you very much.
Dr. Harvey, please.
I thought Professor Sudarsono did a very nice job of answering that, and maybe I can follow up with him afterward. I certainly agree with your comments about resistance management is a very important part. And I'd be glad to follow up with you afterwards and give you more information. I would maybe just add one more point to your comments, which I appreciate. Sometimes when we look at agriculture today to control insects, farmers have very good technology called insecticides, which they use, but they are not perfect. There are problems with insecticides that must be addressed. So when you compare farmers today spraying insecticides in their rice and in their corn, it's very effective, but it may not be perfect. So when you compare new technologies, such as biotechnology, it appears to be, in many cases, an improvement over what they're using today. But it may not be perfect either, and it may require strategies like resistance management to make sure it's there for a long time. So I think it's always important to keep in mind that new technology should be compared to what is the current practice, and is it an improvement, and is it more sustainable, and then we can make a decision. Thank you.
Yeah. Answer depend on the question. Yeah. And making right question is very difficult. That's I think Pak Darsono. Thank you ya. Mungkin ada pertanyaan lain, please. Di belakang, di tengah. Kita sekarang mundur dari belakang ke tengah, ke depan. Silakan Bu, tolong namanya Bu.
Baik, nama saya Ulfa. My name is Ulfa Sirdan. I am from Bayatru.
Terima kasih Pak. Well, it's nice to hear my colleague Dr. Ulfa is here. My name is Jess Fernandez from CMU Biotrope, also in Bogor. Very interesting insights from all the speakers, particularly from Professor Emil. But the last comment from Professor Emil seems like we're pushed to the wall. If we are really saying like social political issue will make all the difference when we have all those politicians agree to something like sustainable development. I believe technology has been steadily growing and technology has been providing us answers to some of our issues. What we would like to really see is to change the mindset of the people, the consumers who are taking the technology itself. It's not arguing about the controversy behind the technology, but arguing for the need of having that kind of technology, particularly biotechnology, for example. On the other hand, I would not like to wait for 10 more years, Emil, to see changes in the way leaders would look at sustainable development. Because like after 1986 until now, we haven't really agreed on what really sustainable development is. Well, the 3 pillars are there, economic, social, and environment, but like the implementing guidelines on how to do this on a country level hasn't been there. So I was just thinking whether like, how do you see all these things really getting down or mainstreaming that in the educational system as early as possible. So like, if I'm a high school student, after 10 years I have this ambition to be a president, then I am equipped already with all the sustainable development concepts and principles. Just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe I'm already too old there. So I've watched the world moving and too much talk, but no practical action on sustainable development. But the bright spot is that a young generation is now growing, fed up with the old generation, with the old established way of doing development. There is this kind of revolt that I sense moving from Middle East, and then this Arab Spring and so on. And now I notice also in US, the young are opposing the old generation, and these kind of things happening. So therefore, I'm optimistic in looking to the future. But it's a slow, promote changes that makes the life more sustainable. And here technology plays an important role. Biotechnology is the key. If initially I told you that the population increases and the biocapacity somehow is overshoot by the pressure of the ecological footprints, the solution is how to get value added of the natural resource, shifting away from resource exploitation to resource enrichment. How to get them from the same plant, same tree, same natural resource, more of it. Here comes technology into the picture, but not the destructive technology, but the biotechnology. And Indonesia must move in that direction because we are the only archipelago of the world situating in the Khatulistiwa, in this equator, yeah, the only archipelago, 30,550 islands in the equator with 2 oceans and 2 continents, yeah, with different climates and so on, and yet rainy season and dry season, not 4 seasons. We are very rich in biological resource. The only problem is our biologists are limited. The knowledge is limited. I like to see more people like Madame here who are knowledgeable about biotechnology, about how to make use of the scarce natural resource to enrich, to raise the value added. But the trend is going to resource exploitation, to export of palm oil, to export of coal mining and so on. And all these destroy the natural resource. Therefore, looking to the old generation, I'm a little bit pessimistic. But I hope that the young, especially the young who are studying and so on, especially those who are dealing with biotechnology, that they must be sure that the future is yours, those biotechnologies, that the way of development in the future is resource enrichment, how to get more from the same natural resource. On the other hand, on the consumption side, not to prefer more. On the consumption side, to have a life which is reasonable, not to have 3, 4 cars, 2, 3 wives and so on, but modest, and life which makes sense, life which is credible, which has moral values, these kind of things. In that context, I don't like that more issue here, but I prefer be a decent man, in balance. Bali is a nice province, and it has this symbol, this philosophy, Tri Hita Karana. Tri means 3, Hita means welfare, life, rich life, and Karana means the source. And the 3 sources of this type of life, nice life, is harmony with God, the Creator, harmony with society, and harmony with nature. This 3 harmony, God, nature, and society, is the key. Harmony, not more, not less, harmony. Bali show, when you're in Bali, you're happy. I mean, it's not, you don't see big malls and so on, but you're happy. Now, how can we make Indonesia a nation in harmony with God, nature and society. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. You remind me about Bali as when we develop the combination between orange, coffee, and coconut. Yeah. We can see everything red in coffee colors, mentioned, and then everything yellow, orange, yeah, and then there are many what you call lebah madu, bees, yeah. And I asked to the governor over there, yeah, it is impossible for me to see that kind of environment in my village. I said, why? Because before the orange or the what you call coconut and coffee will be stolen. Yeah, because of the poverty, I mean. Yeah. The element of sustainability means also the poverty. Well, maybe you have some comment, Dr. Gabriela, with the first and second question.
Yes, only one detail again. How he say three Rita Canara? Three Rita Canara. I like this. And I totally agree, and only would add one thing, that is our whole as person. Then in fact we are here in this breakfast, very good breakfast. We are in organizations or in consultancy or in companies, or we are part of this. Then in order to achieve the three Rita Canara, I need to learn. In order to achieve this, we are, each one of us is from inside. We have a very important role. Then I agree with the point, it's about distribution, it's about less in a lot of places. It's a huge challenge. And it's up to us. It's time to each one of us, to stand up inside our organizations, inside our initiatives, and say, we need to have technology, and we are working for this, but we need also to have other solutions. We need to have multi-stakeholder dialogue, and we need to act now. Then what's must have for now? What the Indonesia country and people want to have now? What Brazil country and people want to have now? Only if we stand up and if we act now, we can change what's happening. If we don't act, we will not see what we want to see. And this is what, for me, it's the most beautiful thing that we have now, this opportunity to act and to make the difference and answer questions of our grandchildren, that we made the difference. Thank you very much. It was really
like considering it as a weed. This is also a part of changing the mindset. If I may say so, Biotrop has been working on sorghum for a long time, 10 years or so. And we've developed technologies and processes of having sorghum as food, feed, fertilizer, fiber, and fiber and things like that. So just like enriching everything, but it seems like we would focus on rice because it's more palatable than sorghum or something else. But this is part of the changing of mindset of us, like accepting unconventional things, but later on looking into the possibility that this is what would allow me to survive 10, 15 more years from now. Like Thailand has been declaring itself as the kitchen of the world because they have so much resources and they are using each resources to the fullest, like eating insects and things like that. But for a common people like us, I don't want to eat that. But this is how the way should be. Not just like chicken, not just fish, but other things, because it's all about survival. It's all about sustainability of human beings. So this is one thing that we would like, when we develop technologies, it's something like looking for other sources or enriching what is already available, and that's what it is.
Mindset is growing. The mindset in which you don't lead from the soil, you lead from the natural resource, from mining and so on. Now, so the mindset is growing together with the man-land relationship. Of course, education plays an important role. And here I feel that the condition of the land, environment that where you are, also dictate your mindset. It is wrong to say, why not go to wheat, when Indonesia as a tropical land cannot grow wheat. We have sufficient carbohydrates like sago in Papua, sufficient to cover all millions of our people. The man-land ratio will determine the changing mindset, and then stimulated, of course, by education. But the reason why I'm convinced that there will be change is because the young generation will face a different Indonesia, because more people, that's 316 by 2045, when we won 100-year independence, they have different more people, the same country, and of course the relationship with land need to be changed. Here comes the pressure for a changing mindset. Therefore, I'm confident, but whatever we do, there will be this kind of adjustment in which the biotechnology will play a very dominant role. But don't go to a road like to US with wheat, when Indonesia cannot produce the wheat. It must be in accordance to the local environmental condition. That's why development, economic, social, and environment, all the three must be in combination in the triple track of sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you, Prof. We already reached the limit. 10 o'clock. I believe there are many questions from you. I think we can discuss further after the meeting, after the session. I would like to share as the final, not making a conclusion, but I would like just sharing with you, because I have no time to talk. So I would like to wrap the end of the session. The first one is, Prof, I try to seek the question, why Asian addicted to rice? And why Western addicted to wheat? I got the answer. Actually, within rice, there is biochemist called exorphin. Exorphin is a kind of morphine. Make us addicted. That's why it's very difficult to change our food habits. The same thing with the the wheat. There are exorphin inside. That's explained, but this is a good thing for economics. Because the demand is stable. We can develop a huge infrastructure, blah 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 and blah blah. Why I raise these issues? Because as Professor Emil Salim raised, our issues is politics. And agriculture closely related with politics, with the distribution of land, with adoption of technology, with import policies, with R&D, etc., etc. I tried to take a note on green revolution. Norman Borlaug said, our technology will only able to serve at most for 30 years. It was said around 60s. That's why after 2000 here, the growth of productivity in Indonesia for rice already negative. Production, the total increasing, but the growth of productivity already negative. That's why we need to change the political aspect, the policy in development of new technology in Indonesia. Yeah. So I think that's my share, a little bit share of thinking about how can we fasten, to develop a new technology for agriculture, which fulfill what Professor Anil said, ecology, economy, socio, and culture, something like that, to be sustainable. And Prof. Emil mentioned about very specific thing in Indonesia, namely Bali. Yeah, I think we can take a lesson from Bali, how Balinese develop very sophisticated cultural aspects to adopt technology. So I think that's my share. So we have to say thank you to all the speakers, distinguished speakers, and give them a big applause. And also